Many people think that the best way to escape war.
This is the playback from Arrow Podcast Network and Red Hawk Radio Theater.
All right, welcome everybody to the playback. We're here for the inaugural episode, here for the pilot, the introduction, and we are brought to you through the Arrow Podcast Network in partnership with Red Hawk Radio Theater. We are hosted by the crew of Red Hawk Radio Theater, at least some of them anyway. And today, as this pilot kicks off, we want to have you meet a couple of us who are going to be on the show. And we're going to try to, go through some of the bare bones of what audio drama is and why you should listen along with us to some of the things we're listening to and engage in the interesting world of audio drama. And so today with me, I have our public relations guy. Now, that's not really the title. It just says public relations in the Constitution, I think. So I think it needs to be kept up. Director.
I am public relations.
I am public relations. Yeah. We have Satyajit Sarkar here. Sorry, that was a little bit fast. I don't know if that really rolled off the tongue the way it was supposed to, but Satyajit Sarkar here. Sati, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good. How about you, Clayton?
I'm doing fine. It's here in Missouri anyway. It's a sunny day. It's a cold day though. It is a cold day. It's usually so. Yeah. How about up there in Chicago?
It's currently it's a sunny day, but it's cold. Okay. It's chilly.
Well, yeah. I tell you that when those leaves started falling, they just fell. Like they started and then they just did it. They didn't go through a process or anything. It happened.
True.
Which, I mean, maybe it's just because I've been cramped inside more with all this college business, the stuff that you got to do to survive and keep swimming upstream in the college world. But yeah, that apparently I missed some of the tree process of falling down. So, anyway, it's such elegant phrasing. But yeah, we wanted to bring you today a little conversation about the wide world of audio drama. And Sati, I know in preparation for this, you've been listening to some stuff. I've been listening to some stuff. I've been listening for a little while now, with of course the club or the organization itself coming together and learning from others and kind of crafting things based on that. But yeah, my experience, I don't know how deeply immersed you could actually consider this. This is kind of part of my journey as well, I think, into this interesting world, because it has such a capability and capacity for such a broad array of storytelling. What do you think is different about audio drama, Sati, that sets it really apart from any other medium?
So obviously in pop culture, you rely on visuals, most likely, and you have movies and TV shows that are dominating culture. And then all of a sudden you strip those things away and you have to capture the audience only through sound. And it takes you back a century or so, and you fall into the shoes of the generations before you, where they didn't have all these poppy, colorful images and visuals to rely on. And it honestly gives you a sense of imagination. It gives you your imagination back.
I like that. Yeah, absolutely. I know that people have described radio drama and audio drama as such a truly visual medium, in that it accesses the mind's eye. And in today's world, where you're probably doing other things at some point, whether it's driving or whether it's making dinner or something along those lines, and you can have the TV on in the background, and maybe get an idea of what's going on in terms of that. Probably not if you're driving. That's probably not something you want to do. But then we might be getting there. We might be, when cars drive themselves, and maybe you nap for 30 minutes while you're being escorted around. But anyway, Um, um,
if
yeah,
if
we had that
Tesla gets his way.
exactly. Well, I mean, yeah, he's um, Mr. Musk is pioneering those different things, and his boxy cyber car or whatever it is that he has released that thing where they did the demonstration and um, they tried to prove it was sledgehammer proof or something along those lines. It was not. But yeah, interesting things. Ugly car, ugly truck. That was it. It was a truck. Um, anyway, my point being was that distractions um, are are less so when you have something that is especially tailored for your ear, um, and are able to access you in a way that you can access them. I think there's something very, in a sense, democratic about audio dramas in that storytelling. Lots of people want to be storytellers, and it's interesting because it's interesting to see how it competes. It's an attention economy, and so when reading, it's like everybody's got a book to sell, things like that. Which it's like if I wrote a book and I intend to, I'd like to sell it. But those things also are part of the attention economy. It's a big wonderful world in that storytellers now have another way that isn't actually all that competitive. Audio drama sphere, my understanding and my impression is that basically most of these people, they listen to other people's stuff along with theirs, and they get a real deep dive into this kind of community. My experience in different things with Facebook groups, subreddits, Twitter. There's a kind of a audio drama Twitter going on, and then I've recently been more active on Podchaser, which is kind of a new social media geared around podcasting. So it's an interesting dynamic, interesting sphere in which people are participating and contributing. And if you've got somebody that can edit audio, that's a great thing that can help to amplify quality. If not, then maybe you can do something along the lines of something more like found audio or something that's easier to edit. That is more simple in terms of being able to convey the ideas that you've got going on. Yeah, Sadi, what kind of genres did you get into in terms of what what you've been listening to lately?
So mostly at the moment, I am listening to more macabre
Oh,
style
okay.
um,
Hmm.
audio dramas, and the one that I've recently gotten into is called it's Fireside Mystery Theater,
Okay.
and
Yeah.
their whole thing is they get together in this one place, get an audience, and they have a little bit of a live music in the background, and yeah, they just put on the show and record it, and yeah, it's a great time.
Yeah, absolutely. I found something interesting about it, though. You mentioned, that macabre and such. Kind of delves into the genre of mystery horror, things like that. Because I've noticed that there's this kind of subculture, a kind of fandom around, like things like the Cthulhu mythos and such, and Lovecraftian ideas. And it's interesting because um, there are a lot of audio dramas, fiction podcasts about things relating to a kind of Lovecraftian feel. In that it's especially suited for podcasting, considering the fact that you never see any movies made about that, and the reason being is mostly because the things that they describe are supposed to be so incomprehensible you can't see them without going mad. So
Hmm.
that
Hmm.
seems to fall right in line with what we've got going on in the audio drama space. And it's interesting. It really allows a variety of genres to really pop up and flourish because you've just got well, for one, a lot of crossover and combination, things bleeding together, things evolving and developing out of other things, and you also have a sense of um, working with different tools in the writer's toolbox. Things can be worked on in terms of suspense, where things are headed, driving those. Yeah, the Cthulhu mythos is not one that I've really gotten into. I have like been listening mostly to sci-fi. Listened to a political thriller type show, Echo Protocol, which was great. Had an interesting twist ending. It was a mini series, um, pretty analogous to a lot of things going on here, except uh, amped up to 10. So um, it's interesting to see people being able to tell these stories in non-traditional mediums. I know that podcasting has been compared somewhat to how blogging exploded, earlier of the 2000s, and now we have so many podcasts, and within that, the interesting world of fiction podcasting, an ability to tell stories that way that aren't audiobooks and also aren't traditional storytelling or short stories. So yeah, it provides something new, and it provides something that is more handed, to individuals to kind of look into, to develop their own, and to adapt their own ideas into these things. It has less of a money barrier than making a movie. That I think that's pretty clear. Never made a movie. Sadi, have you made a movie?
Yeah, a couple short
Okay.
films in high school, but
Oh
other
yeah.
than that,
Okay. Yeah, I got you. Yeah, no, I haven't ever been involved in that. That's someday maybe. But we'll see. We'll see. Um, yeah, no. So that's interesting. I think it's an interesting way in which you can tell these stories. And I know that another interesting factor is that sometimes these shows do get adapted into actual TV shows and the like. I know that Lore was adapted by Amazon, which is more of a horror show. Um, and then there was another one adapted by Amazon, but my mind is failing on that one. I think it had to do with some sort of experimental science or something along those lines. So it really provides an interesting overlap. Like, for instance, I also have been listening, or started more listening to a show called Sage and Savant, which is about basically transmigration, scientifically induced transmigration, people traveling to past lives. So it's kind of an interesting conflation of themes you might get in something like Doctor Who, with something like Quantum Leap, for instance. Those different shows, um, really interesting, different premises that you can draw together, as well as making it kind of a period piece, set in the past originally, and then also time traveling. So that's a neat little factor. Um, Quantum Leap's an interesting show. It's got an interesting. It's very cheery as a theme. Has a very cheery theme song, which doesn't seem to really make sense. It's just like this guy's mistakenly and accidentally bebopping across history and assuming other people's lives. It's like, it's like everything's fine. It's not like this man is completely untethered and floating through the space time continuum or anything. But that's a side tangent. It's um, yeah. What do you think about the storytelling aspect of it, as far as being able to convey different genres, especially?
I think obviously with different genres, the different flavors that come through um, have to be uh, maintained in the audio aspect, because if you're doing, a comedy, you're not going to have slapstick, obviously, but you have to um, portray it in a comic way so that the people get that it's a comedy and it's not, something else. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Writing our first comedy for Red Hawk Radio Theater was interesting because I really enjoy slapstick, and it was not something that was able to be included in it. There were some gags in terms of crashing sound effects and whatnot, but it was kind of a real thing to be non-visual. I find myself really inspired by folks like Zucker Abrahams and Zucker, which were a trio of writers that were responsible for things like Airplane and The Naked Gun and shows like that, or movies like that. And there's this kind of a style of a lot of visual gags and kind of like Easter eggs. Like if you notice them, paying attention, and it's like a real use of juxtaposition. And something like that, it has to be tailored differently, because with all exposition in audio drama, it's like you have to find a way to do exposition that isn't like too on the nose, and it's still fine to listen to and not complete personal declaration constantly, those sorts of things. And it's told naturally and told in a feasible sense. Yeah. So what do you think about the playback? How are you viewing the show coming up? Are you excited about it? Basically, this. How do you feel about things coming up?
I am genuinely very excited. Like it's gonna be a great time. It really is.
I think so too. It's going to be a good opportunity. I'm really enjoying how things are taking off at the Arrow Podcast Network, especially, and to be in partnership with them, with Red Hawk Radio Theater, to bring something like this, and to get all this connection and to get this kind of conversation about a lesser known and less amplified art form, I would say, is a really good opportunity. I know that, occasionally you'll have things like one morning, 1A on NPR did a story about audio fiction and how it's popping up and developing. And it's like, hey, there you go. It's appearing. And they did one thing about how theaters in different places were transitioning to more of an audio format because of COVID-19. Then you had things like folks, way back when things were starting to take off. There was one of the most prominent is Welcome to Night Vale among the podcasting universe. And so folks as far back as 2013 were being interviewed by NPR. Not to say I only get my news from NPR, but I am currently in a a local public radio station after coming in here. But yeah, we're currently getting more attention than ever in terms of what audio drama is, and it is something where people aren't like, this is our blockbuster and you need to come and see our blockbuster versus anybody else's. It's like a creative sphere where people just contribute, and that's interesting, and I'm interested to see what the future of it is.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, I think that pretty much wraps up our little bit of introduction today. Anything else you want to add, Sati?
No, just look forward to more installments of the playback, and we hope you enjoyed this first episode.
Thanks for listening, everybody. We're very excited about this partnership with the Arrow Podcast Network to be able to come on here and to talk more about this medium that we love, that we've been exploring lately. And we want to hear from you, and we want to hear more from you as in terms of how things are going and how you're enjoying the show. So send those to redhawkradiotheater@gmail.com. So until next week, keep those earbuds in and your ear to the ground, because you never know where you're going to find your next story.